The autumn wind carried a strange silence through the coastal town of Bellharbor. It was 12th October, 1964, when 27-year-old schoolteacher Eleanor Price stepped out of her apartment and slipped into a mystery that would haunt the town for decades. No witnesses, no sounds, no struggle. Just a woman walking into the morning fog and never returning. Some say she ran, some say she was taken. Others believe the truth is buried somewhere in the spaces between her final footsteps. This is the story of the vanishing of Eleanor Price, a case filled with unanswered questions, quiet heartbreak, and a timeline that grows colder each year. Bellharbor in 1964 was a quiet seaside community on the New England coast. Narrow streets, soft church bells, neighbors who knew one another by name. Life moved slowly, and change came even slower. Eleanor Price fit perfectly within this world. She taught literature at the local high school. She lived alone in a small second-floor apartment overlooking the harbor. Friends described her as gentle, thoughtful, and predictable in her routines. She loved morning walks, handwritten letters, and reading in the attic window where the sun fell perfectly at dusk. Nothing about Eleanor's life suggested danger. Nothing foretold disaster. And perhaps that is why her disappearance shook the town so deeply. The timeline begins on Monday, 12th October, 1964. Witnesses later recalled a thin veil of fog covering the harbor. The fishing boats' lanterns flickered softly against the water. For many, it was an ordinary morning. At 6:45 a.m., Eleanor was seen leaving her apartment. A grocer across the street remembered her locking her door and adjusting her coat. He said she looked distracted, like she had a thought she couldn't shake. She carried a canvas tote bag, the same one she used every morning. Inside, her lesson plans, a thermos of tea, and a paperback novel she was rereading for the third time. Her usual walk to school took 7 minutes. But at some point between her apartment and the school gates, she vanished. No one saw which direction she turned after stepping off the curb. No one saw her reach the corner. No one heard anything unusual. The fog swallowed the street, and Eleanor with it. At 8:05 a.m., students gathered in her classroom. By 8:15, the school secretary called her home. By 9 o'clock, the principal walked the route she normally took. Her apartment door was locked. Her bed was made. Her tea kettle was cooling on the counter. Everything in place. Everything exactly as she left it. The police were alerted shortly after. For a town as small as Bellharbor, a missing person was rare, especially someone like Eleanor, who kept a steady and predictable life. Officers traced her usual route, searching for footprints, dropped belongings, anything. They found nothing. It was as though she simply dissolved into the morning fog. Detectives began assembling Eleanor's final 48 hours. On Saturday, she visited the library. On Sunday, she wrote letters to her parents. That night, she graded essays at her kitchen table. Everything was quiet. Everything was normal. But one detail stood out. A neighbor saw Eleanor standing at her window late Sunday night. She wasn't reading. She wasn't writing. She was just staring into the dark street below. Still, silent, almost uneasy. The neighbor said she looked lost in thought, like she was waiting for something. But who? Or what? Detectives could not answer that question. The search stretched across the harbor, the forest trails, and the narrow alleys near her home. Dozens of volunteers combed through brush, roadside ditches, and abandoned sheds. Her tote bag never surfaced. Her coat never appeared. Not a single button, page, or footprint was ever recovered. The absence of evidence became the greatest mystery of all. But the deeper investigators searched, the more the story shifted from a disappearance to something far more tangled. Because Eleanor had secrets. Quiet ones. Hidden ones. And they offered the first cracks in the image of her peaceful life. During the search of her apartment, officers found a letter tucked inside one of her books. A letter she never mailed. It was addressed to her sister. The handwriting was shakier than usual. The words were carefully chosen. The message carried a whisper of fear. She wrote, "Something feels wrong lately. Like I'm being watched." She didn't name anyone. She didn't explain further. But she added one final line, "I hope it's only my imagination." For investigators, that sentence changed everything. Did Eleanor know someone was following her? Did she feel unsafe but choose to remain silent? Was she worried about a stranger or someone she knew? Detectives began interviewing her colleagues, her neighbors, and a small circle of friends. One coworker mentioned that Eleanor had been unusually quiet the week before she vanished. Another said she had been avoiding walking home alone. A third said she had requested to change her classroom's evening duty, though she didn't fully explain why. There were no known threats, no disputes, no enemies, but the sense that something was wrong in her final days grew stronger. A fisherman later came forward, claiming he saw someone matching Eleanor's description near the pier around 7:10 a.m., roughly 25 minutes after she was last confirmed seen. He said she was walking quickly, alone, as though trying to reach someone. But the fog was thick. The distance was far, and his sighting could never be confirmed. Still, it raised new questions. Why would Eleanor go to the pier on a Monday morning? Why leave her normal route? Why head toward a place she rarely visited? The mystery only deepened. A quiet rumor surfaced during the investigation about a man Eleanor had spoken to weeks before she vanished. He lived near the harbor and had been seen walking in the same direction she took most mornings. Neighbors remembered him as quiet, distant, always keeping to himself. No evidence linked him directly, but his presence in the same areas Eleanor frequented created a thread investigators couldn't ignore. Still, without proof, the lead faded. He moved away months after she disappeared. No answers ever followed. By winter, the official search slowed, though the town continued to watch the shoreline, hoping for a sign. Detectives revisited her apartment and took note of one last detail. A small suitcase under her bed remained packed. Not fully, but half-filled, as if she had considered leaving, but never decided. Inside were a sweater, a photo of her sister, a notebook filled with quotes, and an unused train ticket to a nearby city. The ticket date? The very day she vanished. Was she planning to leave quietly? Was someone meeting her? Did she change her mind, or never make it to the station? This single detail shifted the story again. Maybe Eleanor didn't disappear from Bellharbor. Maybe she was trying to disappear into something else. To this day, three main theories remain. Theory 1. She left by choice. Some believe Eleanor boarded a train under another name, choosing a different life far from the one she knew, and escape from whatever fear lingered in her final days. But those who knew her say she would never vanish without a word. Theory 2. She met someone that morning. Perhaps someone she trusted. Someone who convinced her to walk off her normal path. Someone connected to the unease in her final letter. But no evidence ever surfaced. Theory 3. She never left the harbor area. Some believe she was lost near the pier and simply never found. An accident hidden by thick fog and deep tides. But again, no trace. Not a single belonging. Not a single footprint. Nothing. Eleanor's disappearance became a quiet legend in Bellharbor. The town grew older. Her students grew up. Her family moved away. But her story remained, a shadow in the fog that still clings to the harbor every October. Sometimes, early in the morning, people swear they see a woman standing at the water's edge. A figure in a long coat. Silent. Still. Watching the tide. Most dismiss it as imagination. Others aren't so sure. Eleanor Price walked into a foggy morning and left behind 1,000 questions. Her life, gentle and steady, was interrupted by a moment we still cannot define. The last chapter of her story remains unwritten. And maybe that is the hardest part. Knowing that some mysteries stay suspended in time, held between what we know and what we fear. Whatever happened that morning in 1964, one thing is certain. Eleanor Price did not simply vanish. She left an echo. A life paused, not forgotten. A question waiting in the fog.